I was brushing my teeth when I heard her say it like it was the most casual thing in the world. You'll need to find somewhere else to stay. This isn't going to work. I nearly choked on the toothpaste. What did she just say? Was she talking to me? In my own house? I hadn't even learned her name yet. My name's Kayla and I'm 17. My mom passed away 2 years ago from ovarian cancer. Since then it's just been me and Dad, well, mostly me. He checked out emotionally for a long time. I cooked. I cleaned. I walked to school most days when he was too tired or too sad. I held the house together. Then he met her. Online. They fell in love over 3 months of daily Zoom calls, Instagram stories, and long phone calls that I pretended not to hear echoing through the vents at night. She lived in another state, Nevada. We're in Oregon. They'd never met in person. Not even once. Until this weekend. Dad picked her up from the airport yesterday morning. I didn't go with him because I had finals. He didn't care. He just said, "Be nice to her. This is important to me." No name. No warning. Just a half-hearted dad whisper and a look that said, "Don't ruin this for me." When they walked through the door, she was wearing white like she'd come straight from a courthouse wedding. Turns out she had. They got married that morning. Yes, married. After one in-person meeting. And now she's living here. Not in a guest room. Not even temporarily. Like full-on moved in, bringing bags and boxes and makeup and scented candles and a Himalayan salt lamp she placed next to the urn that holds my mother's ashes. No, I'm not kidding. She sat on the couch like it was hers. Put her feet on the coffee table like she paid for it. And then, not even 24 hours in, she tells Memo to pack up and get out. She called it a fresh start. For who? For her? First I laughed. Not the polite kind. The kind that bubbles up from somewhere angry and confused and 15 layers of betrayed. I live here, I told her. She blinked slowly like I was the stupid one. Sweetie, she said, and I swear she stretched the word like it was sticky gum. This is your father's house now. Things are changing. It wasn't just her words, it was the way she said them. Like I was an obstacle. An old piece of furniture she wanted to toss out to make room for her vision board and beige throw pillows. I waited for Dad to say something. He was standing right behind her. Silent. Almost like he wasn't really there. He scratched the back of his neck. Kayla, let's talk in the garage. The garage? Not the living room. Not the kitchen. The cold cement garage where we keep spider traps and broken appliances. I followed him out there, heart pounding in my ears. He closed the door behind us like he was hiding a secret. I stared at him, waiting. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She just needs time, he mumbled. She feels overwhelmed. She feels overwhelmed? I repeated. I live here, Dad. This is my house. Mom's house. You can't just. She's my wife now, he said quickly, too quickly, like he'd practiced that line. I need you to try. Please. Try what? Being homeless. He didn't answer. I didn't cry then. I should have. But all I felt was a dull burning behind my ribs. Like someone was turning a key over and over again in a lock that no longer fit. So I went upstairs. I didn't pack. I didn't move. I sat on the floor of my room, our room. Mine and Mom's and stared at the faded paint on the walls we once picked out together. I could hear them downstairs laughing. She was already calling him babe. He was already calling her honey. By nightfall, she'd moved her skincare into Mom's bathroom drawer. That was day one. The next day, she called a family meeting. Except she didn't call it that. She called it a home vibe session. She passed around printed house rules, yes. Printed, and asked us to rate how we aligned with the home's energy goals. I gave her a 0. She said I was being toxic. Later that night, she knocked on my door while I was doing homework. She didn't wait for me to answer. Just barged in and said, "You know, college is coming. Maybe now's a good time to learn how to fly." I stared at her. "Are you kicking me out?" She smiled. "I'm helping you grow." I told her to get out of my room. That night she unplugged the Wi-Fi. Said electronics after 10 p.m. disrupt feminine energy. I failed my calculus quiz the next morning. When I told Dad, he rubbed his temples and asked me to compromise. By the end of the week she'd feng shuied the house so much I barely recognized it. Mom's photo was gone. replaced by a large canvas of a naked woman lying in a wheat field. She said it invoked divine softness. I said it was inappropriate. She called me emotionally rigid. Then came the final straw. I walked in from school on Friday to find my roomy room half empty. My books were stacked in cardboard boxes. My posters were rolled up. My bed was stripped. She was in there folding my clothes like she owned them. "What are you doing?" I asked, panicked. "Helping you transition," she said calmly. "To where?" She smiled again. "My niece needs a roommate. She's got a cute little place on the other side of town. Your dad already paid the first month." That's when the twist hit. I told her I wasn't going anywhere. She shrugged and said, "Then I'll tell your school you're refusing safe housing. Let's see how that goes over." She had a point. I was a minor. If I refused to move, she could paint me as defiant, unstable. She even hinted at calling CPS. And Dad? He stood in the hallway, watching, saying nothing. So I made a decision. I walked out, but not before one last surprise of my own. I didn't walk far, just to the end of the street. My best friend Ellie lived 5 houses down. Her mom opened the door before I even rang the bell. She took one look at my face and didn't ask a single question, just said, "You can sleep in the guest room." No arguments. I hadn't planned anything. I didn't take my toothbrush or clothes. All I had was my backpack, my math binder, and a trembling kind of fury that sat just below my skin. Ellie and I lay on her bed that night, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling. She let me talk, cry, curse, and sit in silence. She even ordered my favorite Chinese takeout and let me eat the last egg roll. By midnight, I finally said it out loud. "I think my dad picked her over me." Ellie didn't say anything at first. Then in her quiet way she replied, "No. He picked the version of himself she sees." I didn't understand what she meant until much later, but it stuck with me. The next morning Dad called. I stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. He didn't text. He didn't follow up. Nothing. But she did. At 8:03 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. "Hi, sweetheart. Hope you're feeling better today. Just wanted to let you know we're setting up your new room with soft pink curtains and a little yoga corner. Big changes equals big growth. Can't wait for you to feel at home. Woman in lotus position, light skin tone tulip." I stared at the message for a full minute before deleting it. That day, Ellie's mom helped me call my school counselor. We talked to the social worker too. I was still technically a minor. I needed to be careful. But I had options, especially since my living situation was clearly unstable and emotionally coercive. They couldn't force me to live with someone who was actively trying to gaslight me out of my own identity. And just like that, the story shifted. I wasn't just the girl being pushed out of her house anymore. I was the girl pushing back. I returned to the house 2 days later with Ellie's mom and a school resource officer. I'd learned that as long as I had legal permission to retrieve my belongings, and wasn't being violent or threatening, they couldn't stop me. She opened the door wearing silk pajamas and a face mask. The look on her face when she saw the officer was almost worth all the pain. "I just need to get my stuff," I said calmly. "And I'd like to speak with my dad." She narrowed her eyes. "He's napping. He had a headache after everything you put him through." The officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, it's within her rights to collect her personal items. We'll give you space." I walked into my room, or what used to be my room. She'd rearranged the entire thing. The bed was pushed against a different wall. My posters were gone. There were new sheer curtains that made everything look like a hotel room pretending to be peaceful. But the closet still had my clothes. The drawers still had my notebooks. Mom's photo, which used to be on my nightstand, was buried in a shoebox under the bed. I took my time packing. While I zipped up my suitcase, the door creaked open. Dad peeked in. He looked terrible. Tired. Older. "Kayla," he started. I stood up slowly. "Do you even know what she's doing?" His lips tightened. "She's trying. You haven't made it easy." "Easy," I repeated. "She erased Mom. She lied to my face. She tried to relocate me like I'm a plant she didn't like the placement of. She's trying to create a new life for all of us," he said weakly. "By pushing me out of the old one?" He didn't answer. "I loved you," I said. "I trusted you. His voice cracked. I still love you. Then act like it. He looked at the floor. Maybe some space will help us both. That was the last thing he said to me that day. I moved into Ellie's guest room. Her mom helped me file for temporary guardianship so I could finish out the school year. It wasn't permanent, but it gave me time to breathe, to feel safe, to figure out what I wanted to do next. And it gave me the space to uncover the twist I never saw coming. 1 week after I left, I got a message on Instagram from a girl named Natalie. Her bio said she lived in Reno, Nevada. She had bright red hair and a profile picture with a caption that read, "Love is patient, but I'm not." Her DM said this: "Hey, I saw your post. I think my mom just married your dad. You might want to talk." I sat on Ellie's bed, staring at the screen like it was cursed. I messaged back instantly, "Wait, your mom is Angela." She replied, "Yup. She told me she was visiting Oregon to start over. She didn't say anything about a husband. And then, she's done this before." My hands went cold. "What do you mean?" "She meets guys online. Usually older, lonely. She love bombs them, then moves in. Sometimes marries them. She did it to my stepdad too. He lost custody of his kid over her." Natalie sent photos, texts, screenshots, even a link to a Reddit post she'd made months ago warning people about her mother's manipulative behavior. Suddenly everything made sense. The rush to get married. The immediate attempt to isolate me. The printed rules. The crystals. The rebranding of my life. Angela wasn't building a home. She was conquering one. I sent the screenshots to my counselor and Ellie's mom. We shared them with the school and even contacted a legal advocate. Turns out, emotional abuse by a step-parent is hard to prove, but patterns of predatory behavior? That's different. I wrote my dad a letter. A real one. I didn't yell or accuse. I just told the truth. I told him who Angela really was. I included the screenshots. I told him I still loved him, but I wouldn't come back to a home where I had to shrink myself just to survive. I mailed it. Then I waited. 3 weeks passed. No word. Then one afternoon, I came home from school and found him sitting on the porch of Ellie's house. He looked broken. Not in the tired, grief-swallowed way I remembered, but in the awake way. Like someone who'd finally opened their eyes and realized they'd been sleepwalking through a fire. "She left," he said. "Packed up yesterday. Took my credit card and my laptop. I didn't say anything. She tried to tell me you were poisoning me against her. That you were unstable. That Natalie made it all up." He looked up at me. "But I believed you." We sat in silence for a long time. Then he asked, "Can I still be your dad?" I didn't answer right away. Because love isn't a light switch. You don't flip it on and off. You don't unfeel abandonment or betrayal overnight. But you can choose to rebuild. One choice at a time. So I nodded. And we started over. This time for real. I didn't move back in right away. My dad offered twice, but I told him I needed time. Space. Trust isn't something you just switch back on because someone says, "I'm sorry." That's not how it works. But something did shift that afternoon on Ellie's porch. He didn't try to explain away his choices. He didn't say I was being dramatic. He just sat with it, with everything. With me. And that was more than he'd done in 2 years. A week later he showed up again. This time with a bag of my favorite chips and a small photo album. "I've been cleaning the house," he said, standing in the doorway of Ellie's living room. "She took a lot, but not everything." He handed me the album. Inside were pictures I hadn't seen in years, and Mom baking cookies, Dad pushing me on a swing, all 3 of us camping by Crater Lake. And tucked in the very back was a folded note in my mom's handwriting. It read, "If things get dark, don't let go of each other. Not ever." I cried. Not the kind of tears you wipe away quickly and pretend didn't happen, but the deep, shaking, ugly kind. Ellie's mom wrapped her arms around me and said nothing, which somehow made it even safer to fall apart. Later that night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I asked Dad if he wanted to come to one of my therapy sessions. He said yes. And he showed up. He sat beside me on that uncomfortable gray couch, hands folded in his lap, eyes damp and unsure. And he listened. He didn't defend himself when I told him how lonely I'd felt since Mom died. He didn't argue when I said he'd made me feel invisible in my own house. He didn't try to soften the truth when I said, I thought you chose her because I was too hard to love. He just said, I was grieving and I didn't even realize I was letting it swallow you whole, too. I'm sorry. Those words didn't fix everything, but they mattered. A week later, Natalie and I finally talked. Not just through Deems but for real over video chat. She was funny, sharp, way more sarcastic than I expected. We talked for almost 3 hours. About her mom. About stepdads. About how terrifying it is to watch a parent fall under someone else's spell. I told my last stepbrother, she said, if Angela ever shows up again, run. Don't look back. Burn the bridge. I laughed. I would've, but she already redecorated it with crystals and essential oils. We kept talking. Pretty soon we were texting daily. She even started calling me sis, which made me snort laugh every time. But just as things started to settle, the next twist came. Angela wasn't gone. Not really. 3 weeks after she ghosted my dad and drained his card, he got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just his name in big loopy handwriting. Inside was a single page. Typed. I never meant to hurt anyone. I just needed a clean slate. You were supposed to be different. But your daughter never gave us a chance. I had to protect myself. She ended the letter with a quote. Sometimes to bloom you must root elsewhere. I nearly threw up when I read it. Dad sat across from me at the kitchen table silent. His jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. She's trying to rewrite what happened, I said. He nodded slowly. She's good at that. I think she's trying to make you feel guilty. He looked up. It's working. That was the part that scared me. Angela might have left, but her voice, the way she twisted reality, still echoed in Dad's head. I decided to do something about it. With Natalie's help, I created a post. It wasn't a hit piece. It wasn't revenge. It was a warning. I wrote about what had happened. How my dad had married a woman he'd never met in person. How she moved in, erased my mom, and tried to push me out within days. How she used emotional manipulation, love bombing, and control to turn a grieving man into a puppet. Natalie added her story too about the time Angela convinced her ex-stepdad to cut off contact with his son. We shared the post on Reddit, TikTok, and a few Facebook support groups for people dealing with narcissistic abuse. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of comments. Hundreds of DMs. Stories from other girls, other sons, other families who'd been through the exact same thing. People called her behavior textbook coercive control. Some even recognized her from other stories with different names. We weren't alone. The truth was spreading. And the more we shared, the more my dad began to untangle the web she'd spun around him. One night he pulled me aside and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me even when I gave up on myself." I told him the truth. I almost did. He smiled a little. "I know. And I wouldn't have blamed you. It wasn't a perfect ending. There was no dramatic movie-style apology or big family reunion dinner. But there was healing. Little things. He made tacos on a Tuesday the way Mom used to. He came to my school play and sat in the front row. He started seeing a therapist on his own. And slowly, carefully began to feel like a family again. Then one day he surprised me. We were driving to get groceries when he said, "I found a lawyer. I'm filing for an annulment." I blinked. "You can do that?" "She lied about everything," he said. "That's grounds. And even if it's not approved, I need to try. I need to legally separate myself from her. Not just emotionally." That was the moment I knew he was serious. Not just about fixing what was broken but about protecting me, too. He even started a journal. He let me read parts of it. In one entry he wrote, "I didn't realize I was lonely until someone offered to fill the space with noise. But real love is quiet and patient." Kayla reminded me of that. I didn't cry that time. I smiled. Because for the first time in 2 years I believed him. And then, in a full circle moment I didn't expect, Natalie flew in for the weekend. Her dad finally let her visit. She and I met at the airport, hugged like we'd known each other forever, and spent the entire weekend binge-watching bad true crime documentaries and eating gummy worms. My dad even took us to the lake, the same one where Mom used to take me. And there, standing on the dock, Natalie turned to me and said, "We survived her. You know that, right?" I nodded. Barely. But we did. We threw pebbles into the water. Each one a piece of the past we were ready to leave behind. Angela never contacted us again. Maybe she found a new man to manipulate. Maybe she finally met her match. I stopped checking. Because this isn't her story anymore. It's mine. Mine and my dad's. And it's far from over. Summer came faster than I expected. Maybe it was because life had finally stabilized, or maybe because healing when you actually allow it makes time bend. I finished my senior year with decent grades, better than I thought I would, considering how it started. Dad came to graduation. He cried when I walked across the stage, the kind of tears that don't ask for attention. He held a single Daisy Mom's favorite flower and gave it to me after the ceremony. No speech. No awkward apology. Just a hug that said, "We made it." I thought that was the ending. But then came the final twist. Natalie called me one night in late June. Her voice was shaking. "She's back," she whispered. "Angela." She came to our house. I sat straight up in bed. "What?" She knocked on the door like she still lived here. Said she needed a place to stay. Said she was working through some things. My dad slammed the door in her face. I could barely breathe. "What if she shows up here?" I asked. "What does she want?" "She wants control," Natalie said. "She's like a parasite. When the host heals, she goes looking for another one. And when she runs out of new ones, she tries to reattach to the old." 2 days later, Dad got another letter. This time it was different. Handwritten. Desperate. "I know things were rocky. I know I made mistakes. But I loved you. We can still have that life. I can fix this. I'm better now." At the bottom she signed her name. Angela Marie Carter Fletcher. My dad looked at the letter for a long time. Then he handed it to me. "Should we be worried?" I asked. He shook his head. "No. Because I'm not the man I was when she met me." Then he opened the shredder and fed the letter through, inch by inch without blinking. It should have felt satisfying. Empowering. Final. But it just made me sad. Not for her. For who we became because of her. Because Angela didn't just invade our home, she exposed the cracks that were already there. Cracks from grief, silence, avoidance, and fear. She walked through a door we never locked, because we didn't even realize we'd left it open. That summer, Dad and I decided to repaint the living room. We took down the weird beige curtains she'd picked and replaced them with soft blue ones. I dug out the old family photo albums, and we picked a few of Mom's favorites to reframe. We didn't try to erase the past. Just reclaim it. Sometimes we joke about things like the vibe session, or her salt lamp, or the absurdity of her calling me toxic, while stealing our Wi-Fi password and removing photos of a dead woman she'd never met. Other times we sat in silence, letting the air breathe between us. One night Dad said something I'll never forget. "You saved me, Kayla." From her. From myself. I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized something. I had spent so long trying to make him see me again that I never stopped to see him too. Not the version of him that had fallen apart when Mom died. Not the man who let someone else step in and take over. But the man who came back. Flawed. Wounded. But trying. And that counts for something. So I told him, "You didn't lose me, Dad. You just forgot I was still here." That fall I left for college. Not far. Just 2 hours away. Enough to have my space. Close enough that he could still come to see my theater performances, or call when he needed help remembering how to use Google Calendar. We texted almost every day. One Sunday he sent me a picture. He cleaned out the garage and turned one corner into a mini art studio. Something Mom had always wanted to do. Her easel was there. Her brushes. Her apron with little paint splatters still on it. He wrote, "Took me a while. But I think I'm finally making room for her again." I didn't reply right away. I just stared at the image on my screen, smiling through the kind of tears that feel warm instead of heavy. Later that night I messaged Natalie. "Me, he's healing. Natalie. So are you." Then, as if the universe couldn't help but send one last echo, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line. No greeting. Just one line. "You'll understand when you're a mother." I stared at it for 5 seconds, then deleted it. Blocked the sender. I didn't tell Dad. Because it didn't matter. Angela's voice didn't live here anymore. She was just static now. A footnote in a story that didn't belong to her. I'd already written my chapter. And I was just getting started.